Title: Blind Awareness and Perspectives. Graphic: the CSDB logo, Colorado School for the Deaf and the Blind. An American Sign Language interpreter appears in the corner of the screen throughout the video. Marty walks on the sidewalk with the guide dog. Title: Marty Ron, CSDB teacher. Marty sits in front of a gray background.
I have what is called retinopathy of prematurity. I was born 3 months early, which meant I had to be in an incubator and on that oxygen to live, but it caused my blindness.
Marty stands with her guide dog. The camera circles around her.
For a long time, I could see light, but I progressively started to lose that due to congenital glaucoma, and I eventually had to have both eyes removed. Now I have prosthetic shells.
Robin and a student with a long white cane walk across the street. Title: Robin Teeting, CSDB O&M teacher. Robin sits in front of a gray background.
I have ocular albinism, and I'm lucky because it's a stable eye condition, but I'm legally blind as a result, so my vision is 2200.
Robin and a student stand at a street corner.
For me, that means that the world probably looks blurry, but to me, it's perfectly normal.
Amy walks with the student who is navigating with the cane. Amy signs thank you in ASL. Title: Amy Gunning, CSDB teacher. Amy sits in front of a gray background.
I have cone rod dystrophy. In our retinas, we have cones and rods. Those are the photo light receptors. Most of those have degenerated in my retina.
Michaela and a teacher jog through campus during a 5K run. Title: Michaela, CSDB student. Michaela sits in front of a gray background.
I have octave nerve hypoplasia. So basically when my brain sends pictures to my eyes and my eyes try to perceive what's exactly being seen, it does not go through. I can see, a little shadows, maybe a tiny bit of color here and there.
Alyssa walks down a sidewalk with her cane. Title: Alyssa Webb, CSDB substitute teacher. Alyssa sits in front of a gray background.
I was born with a condition called aniridia, and then somewhere around maybe age 5 or 6, I had an onset of glaucoma. And a few days before my 16th birthday, while I was a student here at CSDB, I lost the rest of the vision.
Cheryl sits on a blanket on the grass. A young boy hands her a ball. She thanks him in ASL and passes it back. Title: Cheryl Austin, CSDB Outreach Director. Cheryl sits in front of a gray background.
I have low vision, and it's a result of oculocutaneous albinism. What happens with albinism is low vision characterized by decreased visual acuity. The other two main things that comes along with that are nystagmus, which is an involuntary movement of the eyes. And then the third piece, which is probably what affects me the most, really, is hypersensitivity to light.
Cheryl talks to a boy, tosses a ball up, and catches it. Christina stands and speaks in a classroom. Title: Christina Cortez, CSDB teacher. Christina sits in front of a gray background.
I have retinitis pigmentosa, it's what they believe I have. Growing up, I was diagnosed under a different medical condition, which was called achromatopsia. The big deal there is it's not progressive, while RP absolutely is progressive. So I grew up low vision. Around 17, my vision started to change, and I lost all of my functional vision when I was about 21.
Title: Barriers and Misconceptions. Robin.
I don't think I understood that I was visually impaired until like 2nd or 3rd grade. And that was also about the time when I realized that you don't really want to be different from other kids in school. So I did my very best to just pretend like I wasn't visually impaired and to pass as sighted. And I avoided anything that would set me apart from the other students, like any kind of like using a monocular to see the board. Nope, I'll just listen. Large print books, no thank you.
Amy.
I wore glasses, and I thought, I'll get contacts, and that will solve everything. I will not appear that I don't see as well as everyone else. But when I had contacts, people could see me squinting more because I still squinted in the bright lights.
Cheryl.
I was that kid who refused to accept my disability, to acknowledge my disability, to talk to anyone about my vision, and I just pretended it wasn't happening.
Amy.
That feeling really hangs on, of not wanting to draw a lot of extra attention to myself.
Robin.
In my adult life, I still choose to pass as sighted most of the time because I feel like there is just a misconception that people who are blind or visually impaired don't have the same abilities or capabilities of people who are sighted.
Marty and a student in a kitchen hold a packet of powdered cheese. Marty.
Blindness is a very scary thing for a lot of people. They really can't imagine how they live blind. So I think that's the biggest accessibility barrier, because with that comes discrimination.
Marty and another student high-five and smile. Christina talks to a student who creates a tactile DNA strand from candy. Christina.
There was a statistic I heard. It basically said that number 3 on the list of conditions people most feared, right behind cancer and AIDS, was blindness. And I would say that's really where a lot of this lack of awareness starts. It's kind of this root, I think, of fear.
2 students with white canes and a teacher walk on a sidewalk. Cheryl.
A lot of people have never met a person who is blind or has low vision. For whatever reason, the first time they encounter someone, they're just not really sure what to do. Some people will back away because they don't want to make a mistake. Some people will instantly jump in and try to help.
Marty approaches a Metro mobility bus with her guide dog. Marty.
I've had a couple of people ask to pray for me for healing from my blindness, even when I've said no thank you. I've even had some people take pity on me and offer me, give me money, just come up and here's a couple bucks, which is really embarrassing. Their sense of belief in me seems to be that I need to be taken care of.
Marty walks with her guide dog.
People don't think I know where I'm going, and instead of saying, are you okay? Do you need help? They'll grab me and pull me somewhere where that I don't want to go.
Alyssa.
If I have somebody with me who seems able-bodied, the other person in the public, particularly, a person of professional status, tend to regard whoever I'm with, whether it's my child or a friend or a stranger next to me, whoever it is, and they just regard that person instead of myself.
Marty.
I've had people, literally talk to my sighted counterpart, my sighted friends I've been with. Well, what does she want to eat for lunch? I'm like, I'm right here. I can answer my own questions. Or they'll talk to me, well, hi, how are you? And they're yelling or they're talking louder than they need to.
Christina.
Access to transportation is a big one. Depending on where you live, what kind of town you live in, what kind of services are given, really is going to dictate what you're able to do and where you're able to go.
Robin.
A 5-minute trip to the grocery store could take you 1.5 hours to 2 hours because you're waiting on public transit and there might be limited buses, or the route it takes you to get home could take 6 times longer than just a car ride would. Or if you're gonna get assistance from a friend, you might not be able to do it on your schedule. You might have to do it on their schedule.
Robin and a student cross the street. Alyssa.
I recently, in the last several months, have even had a store have the audacity and the gall to say to me that not only do I have to call first and let them know I'm going to be arriving so that I can have some shopper assistance, but also I cannot arrive before a certain hour of the day because they just don't have the help to help me.
Alyssa walks with her cane. Christina helps a student create a tactile DNA strand from candy. Christina.
Ironically, yeah, I'm a science teacher now, but in my freshman biology class, I didn't have access to a fully adapted periodic table of the elements, so I really didn't understand it until later on when I was exposed to a periodic table of the elements that was braille and tactile and raised and all that.
Christina talks to a student in a classroom.
There were times I was even discouraged in high school from taking AP coursework, which I was interested in doing, but unfortunately my teachers didn't feel they had a way to make higher level learning accessible enough for me.
Michaela.
There's definitely been a lot of challenges with being in mainstream because I have to have things adapted, which can be very hard, especially with, electronic stuff, Google Docs, Google Classrooms.
Michaela constructs the DNA strand from candy.
It was kind of a challenge too because some stuff was only, especially in my health class, some things you could only access on paper.
Marty.
I've also experienced a lot of websites that are inaccessible, I would say nearly on a daily basis. Tons of printed information that I have to figure out how to read, whether that be using some sort of technology or a human reader.
Christina.
Whether it's applying for, something medical online, or you're trying to fill out an application for just anything, anything you could possibly think of for just doing life, comes with possible barriers.
Montage of Amy working on a laptop with screen magnification.
The thing with assistive technology is it doesn't always make everything as accessible to those of us with the visual impairment or blindness as it does to those who are totally sighted. Screen magnification software really helps me, but I still don't view it the same way as anyone who is fully sighted views it. And it can take me longer to access all the information because when you magnify things on the screen, what happens is less amount of information can be presented at the same time.
Montage of Cheryl talking to a group at the 5K and sitting in a park. Cheryl.
I think there's a lot of just lack of understanding about people who have low vision because it is so variable based upon the contrast, the lighting, the time of day, because eye fatigue is a real thing.
Amy.
I know people with cone rod dystrophy who don't need as much of high contrast as I do, or that aren't as bothered by the sun as I am.
Montage of Amy looking at a high contrast laptop screen, then walking with the student outside.
Or there's some people that are more bothered even than I am.
Robin.
I've definitely had times where people thought I was stuck up because I would just walk by them and not say hello, and it was simply because I just didn't recognize them. I see a person walking by, but not always see who it is.
Cheryl.
We have a step-up entry on both sides of our building. And something like that goes straight from concrete to concrete, change in level with no markings, is challenging for me, particularly if I'm walking in or out and it's a bright sunny day. So, right off there, I was like, that's gonna be the kind of thing where if I'm not paying attention, I'm busy, I'm gonna walk out one day, I'm gonna miss that step, and down I'm gonna go.
Amy sits at a table in a classroom with 3 students. Amy.
The biggest thing is probably fluorescent lights, lighting, white light-colored walls, white light-colored tile. Those things might really not appear to be barriers, but they can be for me to access information.
Cheryl sits in a park. She holds a baby on her lap and smiles.
I will get asked questions like, is this the right contrast? Is this the right lighting? Is this the right whatever for someone with low vision? And I always say, well, I can tell you what I prefer and what works for me, but that doesn't mean it works universally.
Christina.
There have been a lot of instances that we've been in trainings or gone to different presentations and things, and as a blind individual, we just don't know sometimes half of what's going on. Because if there's PowerPoint, there's visuals, or even just understanding who's kind of speaking on the stage. Sometimes I'll have to go and kind of debrief with a colleague on pieces that I may have missed, just due to the lack of description.
Robin.
I've been in department meetings where people are brainstorming on easels of paper and everybody's writing things down, and then I'm just like, okay, can't see that, I'll just hang out over here and pretend like I'm participating.
Cheryl.
The example that I can offer is a speaker will stop and say, I'm gonna give you a few minutes to read what's on this slide. And, if that's in person, some of us who have enough functional vision to do this could snap a quick picture, read that, but really, if I'm honest, that shouldn't be our responsibility. Everyone should have equitable access to the same information at the same time. And sometimes I think that at the same time piece is the part that gets lost.
Robin and a student with a cane walk on a sidewalk. Robin.
So I was I think one of the first people to go through my orientation and mobility program at my university with a visual impairment, and I felt like I had to prove myself there. I felt like I had to show them that I had enough functional vision to keep my students safe and to be a good instructor. And then talking myself into an internship here at CSDB, I felt like I had to do the same, and throughout the internship to really just show how much I could see and that I was totally capable of doing this job.
Amy.
I was 16 or 17 and I got my first job, and it was at a pizza place. And the only thing that I had trouble with as far as because of vision is that when people's orders would come up, the table where to deliver the pizza was on a piece of gray paper, and the print was black. And some of the numbers were really hard for me to distinguish. And so I had a little bit of trouble with that. And I was let go from that job only after about a month and a half. And the reason I was given was that I wasn't really a good match for their company. I had always arrived on time. I'd followed what they'd asked me to do.
Cheryl.
I did have an experience, actually the first job I ever interviewed for, where I got all the way through an interview process and basically was at the point of being accepted the job, or offered the job, and they found out that I couldn't drive. And that was the sticking point. And it was sort of like, I mean, honestly, they rescinded what they intended to do in the way of an offer.
Marty.
It's just that really big misconception that when you have a disability of any kind, you can't do anything for yourself. And I'm very much perfectly capable of doing things for myself. So I just try to live that every day and to show people that this is possible, because a lot of people just don't think it is.
Robin.
Ultimately, I feel like this world is made for sighted people, and it's my job to find ways to fit into it and to find accommodations for myself.
Robin and a student wait to cross the street. Alyssa.
The store doesn't care when I show up if I need help or not. They don't care. It's on me to figure it out. The utility company doesn't care if I didn't have a reader this week and my bill is now 6 days late. The school doesn't care if I send my kid in clothes every day that is stained and I don't know it because I can't see.
Alyssa folds pants with the student.
My employer doesn't care if I had to walk to a bus stop and there was 6 inches of snow on the ground and I'm 2 hours late. It doesn't matter. There's an expectation for me. There's responsibilities that I have to do just like you do. And if I can't work through those, all these other physical barriers, like with or without vision, doesn't matter.
Alyssa speaks to a group of students. Amy.
It's just the way things are. And I have been able to be really productive in life. In spite of having a visual impairment, I've been able to accomplish a lot.
Amy walks with the student in the 5K and smiles. Marty.
I have dreams. I have aspirations. I have days where things aren't going great. I have times when my emotions get the better of me. I have all of those things that come with being a human being.
Marty walks on campus.
My blindness is not what defines me. It is another characteristic, like my blondish hair and my blue eyes.
Christina.
We're not all in the same boat as blind people. We're so different.
Christina throws a frisbee into a frisbee golf basket. Christina.
I think that's really what it comes down to with this whole awareness and perspective stuff. It's just knowing to ask and being okay with asking. And hopefully we make people feel comfortable asking. Like, if we're not doing that, then we're not doing our part.
Christina stands in a circle with students. A woman shakes their hands.